everybody, and welcome to Introduction to Formal Logic, Spring 2021 edition at the University of South Carolina, Aiken. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go over the syllabus, explain the assignments, and give you an overview of the course. Let's start with getting to the syllabus. Here we are in our Blackboard page. What you'll do to get to the syllabus is you'll go to where it says Syllabus and Schedule over here. Click on that. There it is. Click on the syllabus. And you can click on this right here to download it. So first off, let's talk about some of the stuff that's in the header up here on the syllabus. Some of it's obvious information, the name of the class, its Introduction to Formal Logic, it's Phil A110060, University of South Carolina, Aiken, Spring 2021. There's some other things in here of which you're probably not aware, but I want you to know too. For example, my office hours are Mondays from 11 to 11:50. Probably not going to be in my office, but I'm going to have that as designated time where if we need to meet up, say in Zoom, I'll be available then. Also, my email address is here too, thomasb@usca.edu. And also the phone number to my office is here as well. Now, even if I'm not in my office, if you leave a voicemail there, that voicemail will show up in my Outlook inbox. So feel free to reach out to me that way too. This edition of the course is online and asynchronous. So never shall we meet in person. Neither shall we do a classroom session where we're all meeting together in Zoom at the same time. If you want to meet one-on-one that way, that's perfectly acceptable. But this class will be, for the most part, at your own pace. And so, what is this class? It's an introduction to the most basic aspects of formal logic. This shall include an investigation as to the nature of arguments, fallacies, and the criteria and techniques of determining validity and soundness for deductive arguments. Furthermore, basic propositional formulation and notation shall be introduced. Expected learning outcomes. 1. The student shall be able to define the following terms: argument, formal fallacy, informal fallacy, laws of logic, validity, soundness, strength, induction, deduction, abduction, propositional logic, rules of inference, rules of substitution, truth table, truth tree, formal proof, conditional proof, indirect proof, inter alia. 2. Translate deductive arguments into formal propositional language. 3. Determine validity of deductive arguments by rules of inference, rules of substitution, proofs, truth trees, and truth tables. 4. Apply laws of logic and rules of inference and substitution to one's own reasoning. And 5. Identify types of arguments, means of inference, and extant fallacies in popular discourse. Required text for the course: Howard Pospicill's Introduction to Logic, Propositional Logic, Revised 3rd Edition. It's not my favorite logic book that exists out there, but it's certainly relatively inexpensive. Now let's get into the grades and the assignments for the class. So here let me say at the outset, there are only 10 quizzes for this class, each worth 10%. That's it. No exams, no midterm, no final, no term paper. 10 quizzes, each worth 10%. Typically, quizzes shall consist of proofs and truth trees and truth tables for which it shall be the responsibility of the student to complete. However, sometimes there will be multiple choice, fill-in-the-blank, short answer questions that will be incorporated into quizzes. That will happen on 2 quizzes, Quiz 1 and Quiz 6. So let me talk about the grading policy before I get into the particulars of how those quizzes are going to work. I don't think there's anything particularly remarkable going on here. A is 90 to 100, B plus, B, C plus, C, and so on. I will say this: if you have a decimal point of any kind for your final grade at the end of the semester, I will round up to the nearest whole number. So what that means is, let's say you had an 89.01. Technically on the scale, that would be a B plus if I left it as is, but I would round up there, that 89.01 to a 90, so that would be an A. If for some reason you had a 59.0001, congratulations, I'm bumping that up to a 60. On the other hand, even if you had a 58.999999, that would round up to a 59.0, and that would still constitute an F. All right, now let's get into the course parameters and the assignments for this class. So for the online version of this class, there should be 10 graded items that I already talked about, the quizzes. 2 of these shall be in-application quizzes done online in Blackboard. That'll be Quiz 1 and Quiz 6. And 8 of these shall be documents the students shall print out, complete, scan, collate, and then submit into Blackboard. So the other 8 quizzes are going to be PDFs that you're going to download, and you can either print them out and complete them by hand, or you can complete them in a PDF editor, and in either case, you will be submitting them back into Blackboard. In order to be successful on these quizzes, it shall be the student's responsibility to read the relevant portions of the textbook, watch video lectures on formal logic, and to do the practice problems from the text. There'll be 2 waves of material, which may be done entirely at your own pace, predicated upon release. You've got the first half, wave 1, which is going to be quizzes 1 through 5. That is to be completed by March 8th, 2021. And the second wave, which is to be completed May 3rd, 2021, that will consist of quizzes 6 through 10. So the way this is going to work is right now, quiz 1 and all its content is available right now. It's ready to go. And over the next week, the entirety of the first wave is going to be available for release on Blackboard. And you can pretty much do it at your own pace once everything's released. The first wave is all going to be due by March 8th. Whereas the second wave, which I'll release on March 9th, will be all the stuff for the second half of the semester. It'll all be due on May 3rd. With that being said, it would be in the student's best interest to not wait until these particular dates to do all of these assignments. So let me be clear about that. There are 2 due dates. Quizzes 1 through 5, the due date is March 8th. For the second half of the semester, the due date for quizzes 6 through 10 is May 3rd. After the respective aforementioned dates, namely March 8th for wave 1 and May 3rd for wave 2, no late assignment shall be accepted and the student shall receive a grade of 0 for any unsubmitted assignment. So please get your quizzes in on time. Again, quizzes 1 through 5 are not due until March 8th. Do not wait until March 8th to do them. Your instructor shall post on Blackboard the recommended order for how to complete your assignments and for what the student ought to engage with prior to attempting each assignment. So let me show you what I mean by that. So here we are back in Blackboard. Let's talk about what an assignment is going to look like. Once the assignments are released, they're going to show up in the announcements here in Blackboard. You'll notice there are no announcements here right now because I'm recording this before the course has launched, but they will show up here under announcements once the assignment instructions go out. It will also go to your email as well. So that's where the instructions will be. All the course content is actually already here. So if you go to course content modules, pretty much everything you're going to need all semester long is already here. There's some lecture slides for the first quiz are in here. Pretty much everything that we're going to look at in terms of my versions of notes are already here under rule guides. Some of my takes on the chapters from the textbook and also the video lectures, separated already for wave 1 and wave 2. So when you look at this yourself, it's going to look a little bit different from what you see here because I'm going back and re-recording some things for this semester. But everything you need is already here for the course, but I'm spacing it out for you. So like right now, if I go to assignments on the other hand, is the folder for the quizzes. So if I click on this, there they are separated into wave 1 and wave 2, just like in the module folder, but you'll notice here right now, only quiz 1 is there. Now, what I'm going to do over the next couple of weeks is I'm slowly going to release the other quizzes as I upgrade some of the content. So what that means is the first wave is going to have an extended release here over the next couple of weeks when everything's still going to be due March 8th. But when you come to March 9th, wave 2 is going to be released all at once. Also, there's a video here that will show you how to submit the quizzes other than quiz 1 and quiz 6. It's a short little video, but if you have any questions about that once you look at it, let me know. Because what you're going to be doing for 8 assignments is downloading some PDFs and either printing them out, filling them out by hand, taking pictures of them, and then submitting that as a PDF back into Blackboard, or downloading the PDFs of those 8 quizzes, filling them out in a PDF editor, and then resubmitting those PDFs with the text that you've put on them. Since there's some special notation that's used in formal logic, that might get a little bit difficult. It might actually be easier to do by hand, but I'll leave that to your preference. So if you go ahead and jump to the final page of your syllabus, you'll see the section called Logical Operators and Symbols. And what this is a glossary of all the symbols that we're going to use in this course when it comes to doing the logic stuff. So we're not quite there yet. In fact, I'll be going into a lot more detail about this in the upcoming second lecture. So I don't expect you to know anything about these now at all whatsoever, but know that this is here on your syllabus as a frame of reference. Really, that first table here is what we'll be using most of in the course. And really the second table, with the exception of this stuff we'll need to know. The grouping symbols that you see there, and a handful of these others, but most of the stuff towards the bottom here, these we won't be using in this course, but in case you Google something about logic and you see this stuff, you'll have at least some reference of what it's referring to. All right, now let's get into a few policy things. So students with disabilities, if you have a physical, psychological, or learning disability which might affect your performance in this class, please contact the Office of Disability Services as soon as possible. And if you do have some disability for which you need to communicate that to me, please do so with the appropriate documentation, and we'll determine the appropriate accommodations for this hybrid version of the class, where most of the assignments are online. But if there are accommodations that need to be made, I will make them. Junior writing portfolio. Remember that the work that you produce for this class, these weekly analyses, can be used in your Rising Junior portfolio. For more information about that, you can go to the AZ Index on the USC Aiken homepage, or you can talk to Dr. Matthew Miller, the Writing Assessment Director. Now let's get into academic honesty. The pressure to earn high grades and belief that a good end can justify any means whatsoever leads many students to resort to less than honest methods to acquire a desirable grade. The student is to avoid condescending into this particular quandary. The USCA Student Handbook lists cheating, lying, bribery, and plagiarism as academic dishonesty. Examples include, so I want to go into this one because I have this sometimes happen from semester to semester. Sometimes I think it's unintentional, but I want to make sure it's clear here. What constitutes academic dishonesty? 1. Giving or receiving unauthorized assistance or attempting to give or receive such assistance in connection with the performance of any academic work. Okay, you get unauthorized aid. So I say open book, but you go, you know what? This person did a quiz a couple of years ago. Let's see how similar it could be. Not a good idea. And I can recognize that, I think, more easily than some people give me credit for. 2, unauthorized use of materials or information of any type or the unauthorized use of electronic or mechanical device in connection with the completion of any academic work. Probably not going to be an issue in here. 3, unauthorized use of any portable electronic device unless required for the course during a test period without consent of the instructor. Our exams are going to be online, so this is not going to be a problem. 4, access to the contents of any test or examination or the purchase, sale, or theft of any test or examination prior to its administration. Somehow somebody hacks in and gets my copy of the final exam and you're using it, that's a problem. 5, use of another person's work without proper acknowledgement of source, that is, plagiarism. So sometimes plagiarism occurs because someone quotes something without designating that it's a quotation. Sometimes it's because somebody alludes to something without designating that it's an allusion. It's allusion with an A. And sometimes somebody paraphrases something without indicating that it's a paraphrase of something. So if you're going to paraphrase, allude, or quote, make sure you throw a citation in there just to be safe. And so a lot of times people mess this one up just by not being on the safe side. If you're using something that didn't come from your brain, tell me where you got it. There's no harm in that whatsoever. Just go ahead, better safe than sorry when it comes to that. 6, intentional misleading of any person in connection with any academic work, including the scheduling, completion, performance, or submission of any such work. So you're like, I'm going to do my final exam, but actually it's going to be my cousin that does it for me because they have a degree in philosophy. That would be an instance of academic dishonesty. 7, offering or giving any favor or thing of value for the purpose of influencing improperly a grade or other evaluation of a student in an academic program. So you're failing, but you go, you know what? I've got a lovely timeshare in Orlando that you can use next year. That would be an instance of academic dishonesty. So don't try and bribe me. 8, conduct intended to interfere with an instructor's ability to evaluate accurately a student's competency or performance in an academic program. Work submitted for this course that is determined to be the result of either cheating, plagiarism, or collusion will earn a 0 for that assignment and may cause the student to receive an F. If work is seen to be dishonest with any of the above criteria, it will be marked as 0 and could make you liable for getting a failing grade. So don't do it. All right, COVID contingencies. Since this is an online class, we don't have the same kind of COVID contingencies as an in-person class. For example, if you're at home by yourself, you do not need to wear a mask when you sit down to watch the lectures for this class or do your work for this class. 1, COVID-related course changes. This year, just like last year, it's expected that COVID-19 could pose additional challenges for students and faculty and may lead to changes in the semester schedule. As this is an online course, quarantined students are expected to continue with the course as planned. However, if you become too ill to complete your work, at their discretion, the professor may arrange for necessary accommodations, which may, depending on the circumstances and documentation, include modifications to due dates, alternative assignments, an incomplete, a medical withdrawal, etc. Should the professor become ill, Their engagements in the course may be reduced or delayed, and/or another professor may take over the course, potentially resulting in syllabus modifications. Computer and communication requirements. Now, being that this is an online course, this one should be a given. But here are the requirements. Each student must have regular access to a computer with a video camera and a microphone. These may be required daily or only on occasion, depending on the mode of instruction or the health status of the student or faculty. All students must be able to access and use Blackboard. Each student must have internet access to receive notifications about the class and to complete assignments if required by the instructor. So since this is an asynchronous class, the stuff with the webcam and the microphone is not as necessary, but in case we do need to correspond in a Zoom meeting in my office hours, then it will become necessary. Finally, students must check their university email and Blackboard announcements each day. 3. Mode of instruction. The University of South Carolina-Aiken reserves the right to change, adjust, and/or cancel any campus operation, including but not limited to mode of instruction, delivery of services, or use of campus facilities, whenever the campus administration determines in its sole discretion that circumstances warrant the operational change. All right, that concludes this video on the introduction to formal logic. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me at thomasb@usca.edu. I look forward to working with you all this semester, and I hope you all have a good spring 2021.